To my HTML and CSS for Beginners course. My name is Abi, and I'm very passionate about programming. I started this course to teach you guys about programming, and really HTML and CSS is the way to get started with web development, basically. And this is the first video of my YouTube channel, and this is a course, meaning it's an ongoing series. This is lecture 1 of the course. I wasn't really, when I was thinking about making this course, I didn't really want to make it into a whole course, like of hours and hours, because that's like many users can't keep up, is very difficult. And just an ongoing series with many episodes of videos is more easier for people to follow, and like many people to follow. So yeah, so in this lecture we're going to talk about what is HTML and CSS, how we can use them, and what do they allow us to do. So let's get started. So what we're going to learn in lecture 1, this is just an overview, is what is HTML and CSS, why is HTML and CSS important, why learn HTML and CSS, HTML versus programming language, also HTML structure, and I'm going to also show you a sample HTML structure, and then what we're going to learn to get going forward. So what is HTML and CSS? HTML is a markup language used for structuring the layout of a web page. It stands for the Hypertext Markup Language. So basically HTML just uses HTML components to add content to our web page. We can add whatever content we want. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It's basically a style sheet, the styling language to style HTML content, to be styled and look pretty. And then it's very important because it uses styling properties, and also it style HTML elements and components to look pretty, because we want our website to become appealing to others. So why is HTML and CSS important? HTML is very important as the fundamental language to build a web page layout. Without HTML, we wouldn't be able to add buttons, text, or headings. And that's very important. So HTML is one of the most important languages for web development and is a critical skill to build successful web pages. Very critical, guys. That's why many people learn HTML, because even if you integrate Python, which is another programming language, even if you integrate that, that's more like a back-end programming language. Like, if you haven't heard of front-end and back-end, front-end is like HTML and CSS, back-end is like Python and not many other programming languages. That's why many people learn HTML first, because that's what the users will see when they first enter your website. Every website that you've seen is coded in HTML, and that's actually pretty cool. And then CSS is important because we want our website to be appealing to others. We want it to be attractive. Like, we don't want someone to be there, oh, this is not good, I don't want this website, I don't want to go and see this website. We don't want them to think like that. We wanted them to be attracted. We want the feedback. So really, that's what CSS is for, to make it appealing to others, to make it attractive. Why learn HTML and CSS? HTML is the foundation of the web. It works with CSS and JavaScript, don't worry about that right now, but that's basically just that interactivity. So basically, now that we actually put it together, HTML is for content, CSS is for the styling, and JavaScript is for interactivity. HTML is easy to start and powerful when mastered. It's very easy to start, guys. It might sound hard. Any programming language you learn might sound hard when you first learn it, but it's super easy once you get into it. The knowledge you gain from learning it is going to be very powerful. It gets you into many careers, and it also helps you build many fabulous things. CSS lets us style the web page. It also makes out the web page look pretty. So HTML versus programming language. So HTML is not a programming language, and can we believe that? Pretty much it's not really a programming language. So HTML is very different from ordinary programming languages. In normal programming languages, we can code logical operations, interactivity, and much more with an application. Well, for HTML, we can't really do all that. It only has web page components that solely only work for building a web page. For example, I have a heading tag over here, and then the h1 tag is a heading tag. There are many types of heading tags, but this is one of them. And the heading tag, it helps us display heading, but really we can't just go into HTML, just make a heading tag and then code interactivity. We would need JavaScript for that. And so yeah, that's why HTML really isn't a programming language, because we can't code logical operations like plus, minus, multiplication, division, all those things. We also have the paragraph tag, which is just to display paragraph text. So yeah. So the HTML structure. HTML tag, it's the root of a HTML structure. Like the HTML structure is like also very important, and it's HTML tag is like the first tag you would do. It contains the whole web page. The head tag is the header of a web page. It contains the title tags, the font tags, and the CSS link tag. The title tag and the CSS link tag are probably the most important ones in the head tag. The font tag is really if you want it. Usually the coding editor that you use usually has, or the computer basically has many fonts downloaded already by default. But if you want to download your own fonts, then you can go to Google Fonts or any font provider you know. But the font tag is really if you like download a font from another provider. So the body tag is the main content on the web page. It's where all the content goes, like the heading tag, the paragraph tag, any tag you put. Okay, so here is the HTML structure. So the HTML structure is basically the most important thing you want to know for HTML when you get started, because like it ensures readability and conciseness when you start your web page. So it starts with the doc type HTML. The doc type HTML just says the browser should not interpret this as any other type of file, and also it should not interpret this as an older version of HTML. Right now the latest version of HTML is HTML5, and what this says is basically the browser must only interpret this as a HTML5 file. It should not interpret it as a older version or another file like a CSS file or anything. It's like, this is very important, guys. Don't forget about this when you're coding your web page. So the HTML tag is the root of the HTML, like I said. The head tag contains the title tag. We don't have the CSS link tag in here because this is solely HTML, but the CSS link tag would be always pretty much there if you use CSS in your web page. Then we have the body tag, which is basically the web page content goes here. That's the main content. Heading tags, paragraph tags, any tag you can think of goes here. Alright, what you will learn going forward. We will, in lecture 2, remember this is lecture 1. So in lecture 2, we're learning the structure more in depth. This is a HTML structure, by the way. We're learning that more in depth in the next lecture. We're learning about the heading tag and paragraph tags in HTML. We're also going to learn about CSS styling, how to style these paragraph tags and the heading tag. And then we're going to also learn about IDs and classes, which really simplify the CSS styling process. In lecture 3, we're going to learn about the anchor and image tags, and we're going to learn how to style them with CSS. We're going to learn about, in lecture 4, we're going to learn about the divider and list tags and how to style them. In lecture 5, we're going to learn about the form and input tags. These are for user input and very important for a web page, and we're going to also learn how to style them. In lecture 6, we're going to learn the basic flexbox. This is super important positioning elements in CSS, a very important CSS concept. We're going to also learn about pseudo classes in lecture 7, which is a CSS concept 2. That's actually very important and also really helps with the attractiveness for when others see your website. So in lecture 8, we're going to learn about text elements. Lecture 9, we're going to create a simple mini project consisting of everything we learned throughout the course. That includes everything. I mean, I mean, when I say everything, it might not be everything, but it will be most of everything we learn in this course. But yeah, so that's all for this. So next we're gonna learn how about what coding editor we're supposed to use. So the best coding editor is called Visual Studio Code, and to download it or like go to the official website, you can go to code.visualstudio.com, and this is basically the best and most common editor that most developers use. You can code like with mostly any language, like there's so many. You can code with also HTML and CSS and JavaScript as well. And to download it, where you can just click download for macOS. I'm not gonna show you how to download it because I already have it downloaded. But when you click down for macOS, it's just really pretty easy. You just follow the instructions going after. And if you're not using macOS like Linux or Windows, it should recognize your operating system and display the respective button for that. So you should be good with that. So so remember about that HTML structure I showed you on the slides? I'm gonna show you the output of what that is to just show you how it works and what the simple website is gonna be. It's not gonna be much, but it will at least get us started. I also want to show another thing in Visual Studio Code to get us started with the next lecture pretty fast. So let me just exit out of that, and I'm gonna open Visual Studio Code. For the next thing, after I show you the output of the HTML structure, I want you once you're done with when this is done downloading, I want you to open it and be ready because I'm gonna show you how to do something very important and it'll really speed up the process of for the learning in the next lecture. We can just get right started with coding. So sample, and I'm gonna open that, and so this is the HTML structure. Again, the doc type HTML, the HTML tag contains the whole web page. Don't worry about lang n. That's really just saying language is English, but don't worry about that. We're gonna learn about those later. But we have the head tag, the title tag, which displays document. Then we have the body tag, which displays the main content. So to display this, I'm gonna just right click and say open with live server, and I'll here it is. So we have the main content. It's not much, it's a white background, but we still get main content, and this is really pretty much how it looks. So now this is where I want you guys to follow with me. So I'm gonna exit out of this and I'll reopen it so we can start fresh. So once you have Visual Studio Code downloaded, I really want you to follow this, guys. There's gonna be a little setup before you can get to where I am, but that setup is pretty easy. Just follow the instructions. So once your setup is done and you got it downloaded, just open Visual Studio Code up and click on this like Explorer icon or like folder icon or whatever, and then say open folder. Now we're going to create the main project folder for this course. This is the project folder we're going to use for the entire course. Even the project will probably I'm going to still decide on that, but I'll let you guys know when that comes up. But for now, for the whole course mostly we're just going to use this project folder. So I really want you guys to follow with me, and it'll also teach you guys how to create the files and everything. So we're going to call this HTML course, since this is this is a CSS course too, so HTML and CSS course. Probably going to capitalize the C. Then we're going to press create, and we're going to press open. So this is how Visual Studio Code will look. It'll just have the big Visual Studio Code logo and all these things. If you want, you can go over these things and just practice, but we're just gonna get to the thing. So to create a HTML file, we just press this file icon that says, when you hover over it will say new file. most HTML files are called index.html. I just like calling mine that because I'm just used to that so much. But you can call it whatever you want, what's relevant to you, like whatever. And then we're gonna just press enter. And we just created our first HTML file. Hooray, guys. So, good job. And now we're gonna create the CSS file. So, if you're not like familiar, some of you might be just new, you don't know anything at all. But some of you might be a little familiar. Sometimes CSS is coded inside the HTML file with the style tag. Guys, I do not recommend that. Like, don't do that. Create a separate CSS file, because if you do that, if the CSS code gets lengthy, it'll start just start getting disorganized, and the readability is so hard, and it creates more weight on the browser, more responsibility for the browser, and it's gonna really just don't do that. So we're gonna just create a separate HTML CSS file. I mean, like always, that's the best thing to do. I mean, if you have a small amount of CSS code, then yes, you can use the style tag. But if you have like a large amount, like 20 lines or something, style.css, just create a separate CSS file. Do not do style tag. It's gonna just be. It's just gonna create havoc. So it's just gonna create chaos everywhere. So let's just click enter, and style.css is, you just want to make sure that it ends with .css, and it's also just to double check, for a HTML file it should have angle brackets as like the icon. For CSS it should have like a hashtag icon. And yeah, you created your first HTML and CSS file, guys. Good job. And this is really important, so I hope you guys follow with me, because this speeds things up, and we're just gonna go right to coding after we talk about a few things in the next lecture. So thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, it's free, and make sure to hit the bell button, the bell icon, to never miss an upload from my channel. So thank you guys for watching.